Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play and earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to just share some thoughts, my personal thoughts around some of the recent events over the last 2 weeks here in Splinterlands. There's been a wide range of emotions, I think, going through the community. And I just wanted to, talk about some of these topics and give you some of my perspectives. Now, I know in this thumbnail, it's, I guess, maybe a little clickbaity here. Is this the end of Splinterlands, right? Have we seen the best days of Splinterlands pass before us, and is this the beginning of the end? Well, what I wanted to do is I wanted to start off this video and I wanted to share a clip from another YouTube content creator on the Web 2 side that I just ran across because I try and follow other things besides just what's happening in Web 3 here in Splinterlands, and I wanted to share his perspective because I think it's very valid potentially here for us in Splinterlands. So without further ado, I'm going to give you this clip here from Darth Microtransaction talking about Diablo 4 and some of the challenges that game has had and what his perspective is and what his advice to Diablo 4 players is. Let me play the clip and we'll just talk about it in just a second.
I want to make one additional point, which is that, yes, Diablo 4 has problems right now. However, I have seen games that went from bad to good. Okay, here's my copium. I'm going to get my bag for copium. You can say copium all you want. But No Man's Sky is an example of a game that went from trash. I actually tried to refund it multiple times, and Sony said they would ban me if I refunded it from my PlayStation. So I didn't. Okay, but No Man's Sky, what they did is when all the bad press came up, and they got hammered arguably even worse than Diablo 4. Okay, and the game was bad on release. In fact, so bad that they even said it had multiplayer, but they didn't. And they continued to lie about post-release until people proved it didn't have multiplayer. It was very bad. Okay, I'm talking bad release. It went from horrible to one of the best, if not the best, space game of all time. No Man's Sky is actually ridiculously good now because they've done update after update after update and continually add the things not only they said they would have, but the things it could have. So I'll leave with a little bit of hope, as he mentioned in this video, that Diablo 4 in its current state is not good. Yeah, I would say that freely, no matter if I have a channel based upon it or not. It's not good, okay? However, if you give them some time, which we're all going to give them the time anyway because we're not playing the game probably, eventually, the game could be good if they recognize all of the errors we've all been telling them. They fix as much of it as they can, which at this point, I don't even know how I would do it for all of it. Okay, but you add an in-game, you add more social systems, I think is a big part of it. You make the overworld matter, better itemization in the game, more feels good. People will come back to the game. Games have recovered before. Diablo 4 could still do it.
So I thought that was a very interesting conversation that Darth Microtransaction had with his community, talking around the Diablo 4 drama that's happening over there on that side of the house, and talking about, over time, the potential for that game to live up to its promises to its consumers and its users and its players. And I think it's important for us to have that perspective here with Splinterlands. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat where we stand today. It's a very precarious situation right now with Splinterlands financially, and that's just worth keeping in mind. There's no guarantees that everything turns out well here, so make sure if you have assets in Splinterlands that you're properly balanced from a risk-reward perspective. But that being said, I think what's important to take from Darth Micro's message here is that definitely there are cases where, given time, other games have certainly rallied and come back and been able to deliver for their players and the players or consumers that purchase the game. And I think that's definitely still a possibility here with Splinterlands, right? We need to give the team a little bit more time to deliver on the promises of the past. And, the question becomes is how much time, one, is the financial ecosystem going to give the team, and how much time are us as the players going to give the team to show some results here. For me personally, I think we as Splinterlands community need to at least give Matt 60 days to at least show some progress here with the change in direction, right? I think that is the least we can do before any drastic actions are taken. Now, again, this is just my perspective. Obviously, everyone can do whatever they want with their assets in Splinterlands. But for me, I just think, some leeway needs to be given to see if there really is change that's being made at Splinterlands, the company, and if we can see delivery of things like land and other things, positive changes for the game. That being said, for me, I personally have 3 specific things that I want to see in this 60-day window of change or grace period, let's say, for the loan before we start collecting. And when I say we, I mean just my personal take on this, obviously. But, I want to see, one, Matt secure VC funding for Steam Monsters, the Splinterlands company, so that we're not always, and they're not always, looking over their shoulders saying, is the game going to exist, tomorrow, next week, next month? They need to secure VC funding to make sure that they have a roadway and a path to get Land 2.0 and Land 3.0 eventually out, and to get things like nodes and game modes and everything else that's been talked about, Rooney construction and GLG, I guess, on that side of the house, and Soul Keep on the Splinterland side of the house. All these things need to get delivered, but to get delivered, there needs to be essentially money in the bank to keep the lights on and to keep the servers running. And the way that's going to happen is not through unknown pack sales on a yearly basis, right? That's nice to have, but they need essentially VC funding at this point to make sure that the vision can be executed, and there's not a sense of the sky is falling every other day in strategic meetings at Splinterlands, the company. That's number 1 for me. Number 2, well, obviously, I think, Matt's a brilliant mind and a genius from a development and product design perspective here for Web3, but he himself has said that he's not really like a CEO personality or figurehead. I think that with VC funding, Matt also needs to bring in someone to be that CEO role for Splinterlands, to do the blocking and tackling at the corporate level and at the communication level, to allow him the ability to go and do the things that not only does he do best, but wants to do, right? Talking about the vision, the strategy, the product design, the tokenomic design, all of that stuff. So we need to get a CEO that Matt can trust and who's aligned with his vision and his strategy and can take on those responsibilities for the company moving forward. And the third thing is, at the end of the day, land needs to get delivered, Land 1.5, and it cannot just keep being delayed. We need to move on from Land 1.5. We need to get to Land 1.6, Land 2.0, Land 3.0, etc. And we need to see incremental progress being made there. In the next 60 days, that absolutely needs to happen. If not, then I think any other promises or hopes or dreams are put into question if we cannot get to that standpoint as it pertains to the land deliverable. So those are the 3 things that I would like to personally see in the next 60 days with these changes at Splinterlands. Let's hope we get there. But for me, until these types of core focus areas for success get delivered and get done, I'm just going to be sitting on the sidelines, waiting, watching, and we'll make decisions moving forward. That being said, I also want to touch on one other topic, because we are, I guess, talking technically about, is this the end of Splinterlands in this video? And what I wanted to say is, following up on my video talking about the current proposal for Matt to basically, for $250,000, give 50% of the Rebellion pack sales to the DAO. I had a video talking about how that adds utility and value to SPS as a token, and was definitely a good thing from a DAO perspective, a good deal in that manner. But I also want to talk about another perspective or point of view on that proposal, and possibly reasons why Steam Monsters or Splinterlands, the company, may be looking to do that. And it doesn't have the positive maybe spin of utility and value being pushed to SPS the token, but it's really more of a practical utility for the ecosystem of Splinterlands and the players. And what I'll say there is that if you recall, probably a year ago now, more than a year ago, one of Matt's big pushes was to get SPS validator license nodes up and running to ensure the game's future, right? So that it wasn't impacted by a government or a single entity through regulation or through whatever means shutting down the game, right? And nodes were a vital component of that theory or that reason to accelerate and push towards the development of the SPS validator license nodes. I think this kind of sweetheart deal with the DAO here for Rebellion could also perhaps be a similar move to safeguard and maintain the sustainability of Splinterlands, the game, and the ecosystem. And what would be the purpose in this regard? Well, the purpose could be to separate a set of funds or monies that are separate, insulated, and separate from Splinterlands, the company, in such that if Splinterlands, the company, were to perhaps file for bankruptcy or be sued and have to basically give up money or assets or shut down, that the DAO would have assets in its coffers to be able to continue the mission of Splinterlands, the game, and serve its players at that point. So it could be, in fact, insurance for the future of the game by taking half of the proceeds of Rebellion and putting it into a different legal entity than Splinterlands, the company. Again, I don't know if that is one of the reasons why this proposal has come forth out of the blue, but in either case, it does seem to, again, make sense in the grand scheme of things, even if it just happens to be by circumstance that is the value or the result that happens. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Another reason to look at the current proposal and to, follow behind Matt's vision here of what he believes is necessary for the game and the company. So I'll leave you with some of those thoughts. Again, we're just rambling here, talking about different things, but I wanted to share these topics as because, well, they've come to my mind here over the last few weeks, and I wanted to share them with my audience. So until next time, keep stacking those stats.
That's entertainment.